Hey everybody, Jon Easdon here from Anglers Covey, and we're joining you today from the banks of 11 Mile Reservoir. This is actually one of our favorite times of the year. Right here about mid-April, we're starting to see all the ice come off of these lakes, and stillwater fishing is now on the menu. Now, stillwater fishing, in my opinion, is our best kept secret in our area. Locally on the South Platte drainage, we have 3 trophy trout stillwater fisheries. We have 11 Mile Reservoir, which we're at today, Spinney Reservoir, which opens April 21st, and Antero Reservoir. And today what we're going to do is talk to you a little bit about some of the Stillwater Basics. Now, it's pretty easy to get into stillwater fly fishing. One of the cool things that I always look at is I get to use bigger rods, heavier terminal tackle, and bigger flies. So these fish in stillwater environments aren't tippet shy, they're not leader shy. We're going to be able to get away with a lot more in our terminal tackle. And once you start fishing the stillwater, you'll see why that heavy terminal tackle is needed. These fish, they pull. It's like hooking a bus, and you need gear that's going to stand up to that. So if you're sick of fishing the size 26 midges all winter, stillwater is definitely a breath of fresh air. And for your terminal tackle, I pretty much don't use anything lighter than 3X. The leaders that I like to use in stillwater, I love the 12-foot leaders. That gives me a ton of versatility in my depth adjustments. And then I can back it up with either match the same size, so I'd use 3X tippet, or I could even go to 4X if I wanted to. Again, this is about as light as I'm ever going to go in stillwater, and in some cases I'm going to go up to 2 or even 1X, especially if I can get away with it. One of the easiest ways to fish in stillwater is indicator nymphing or suspension nymphing. So kind of very similar to what we do on the rivers, where we have a strike indicator on our leader, and then we have our flies and all that stuff down below it. You may see these gigantic indicators in the fly shop. Well, it's kind of funny to think about throwing this in Cheeseman Canyon, right? But these bigger bobbers are definitely for the stillwater. And you're going to want these bright colored, large indicators on the stillwater. It's pretty hard to see when you've got a drift out there at 50 feet or so. So these big strike indicators and these bright colors are absolutely key. They're going to help you. And kind of going into our hard goods like our rod, our reels, and our fly lines, my ideal fly rod for stillwater, I love this 7-weight 10-foot Orvis Recon. This is a rod that has a lot of power. I can cast a mile with this thing and handle any fish that I'm gonna hook up on. Definitely an extra large arbor reel, and then a variety of different fly lines that I'll use on stillwater. Everything from a floating line to some of these specialty intermediate sink lines. More or less, we call them hover lines. So they're designed to sink just a certain rate under the surface. And with those, I can use the mid-stripping rig. So you got a lot of different options that you can use out here. If you were just starting, just your regular floating line is going to work just fine for all applications that you're going to have in stillwater. And the one thing with stillwater too is a question we get a lot is, where do you fish in a lake? And honestly, it's very similar to where we would look for fish in the rivers, right? Like any kind of depth changes, there's a bunch of complex currents going on in the lake too. And if you actually take your time and observe what's going on, you can kind of see those bigger seams that exist in the stillwater. For instance, where we're sitting here today, we're working this wind-blown shoreline right here that's kind of blowing into this cove. So as I'm looking at the wind and where it's moving the water, if I kind of think about the food that's in the water, and it's going to kind of roughly be moving along those same lines, what I can do there is cast into that drift line and let my flies drag where all the natural food is dragging as well. And that's a place in the lake where the fish are actually going to be looking for food because there's food there. So it's very basic, but you want to be able to take the time to assess where you're going to fish. Look for drop-offs, look for depth change, look for all that stuff. And the number one key in stillwater fishing, especially when you're using a nymph rig, is depth and weight are the most important thing that you can deal with, just like the rivers. So if you're out there on the lake and you're not having success, start playing with that depth, and generally you're going to find that sweet spot. The tricky thing is tomorrow it might change. So that's one of the things that we have to do constantly when we're out here stillwater fishing, is determine the depth where we're going to present our flies, where the fish are feeding. Even those patterns that I've been using in the rivers in size 18s and 20s can be perfect chronomid patterns in your stillwater. From there, I'm going to focus on egg patterns. The fish in the lakes are spawning. The fish that aren't spawning know what eggs are. So everything in the lake is aware that there are eggs in the environment, and that is an ideal food source. I'm always going to focus on scuds. This time of year I tend to focus more on dead scuds. They've been under the ice. The majority of those scuds that are in the lake are dead, and they're going to be an orange, a pink, or even kind of a reddish color. So scuds in every colors are another pattern that I focus on. The next one is leeches, and leeches are another year-round bug, and leeches in various sizes and colors are going to be necessary in your stillwater. You're going to want to have a wide variety of different sizes, and that's the thing with leeches. They seem to pick on a certain size, and that's going to be everything from, maybe a size 16 mini leech clear up to a size 10 balanced leech. So every size imaginable out there you want to have as an option. That concludes our spring stillwater preview. As always, if you guys have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Come into the shop, talk to anybody there, give us a shout, and we're happy to help you. Keep your eye open for our 2-part stillwater class that will take place on the lake, and our Stillwater Deep Dive, where we're going to break down all this stuff to the nitty-gritty and help all you guys get ready and geared up for stillwater fly fishing.